The dimly lit corridor of Rikers
You can't
Island
keep me here
echoed
forever.
with the clank
Keep
of metal
moving,
as
or I'll
Officer
make
Daniel Hayes gripped the arm of a prisoner, her orange jumpsuit a stark contrast against the sterile white walls. Her name was Aisha Monroe, and as they walked toward the holding cell, she turned her head slightly, her braided hair swaying, and whispered something that stopped him cold. "When I'm gone, promise me you'll find my son," she said, her voice trembling with a desperate edge that cut through the air like a blade. It wasn't the request itself that shocked him. It was the raw, haunting certainty in her eyes, as if she already knew her time was slipping away. For Daniel, a seasoned officer hardened by years on the force, this moment would unravel everything he thought he understood about duty, redemption, and the human soul. Ta-ta. The scene faded into the grey haze of a New York morning, rain streaking down the windows of the precinct as Daniel sat at his desk, the weight of Aisha's words still pressing on his chest. At 42, he was a man carved from the city's unforgiving streets, broad-shouldered, with a face etched by sleepless nights and a past he buried deep. Colleagues saw him as reliable, stoic, but unremarkable, a cop who clocked in, handled the chaos, and went home. Yet beneath the uniform, Daniel carried a secret. 20 years ago, he'd been a lost kid from the Bronx, saved from a life of crime by a single act of kindness from a stranger. That memory fueled a quiet resolve, but also a gnawing doubt. Could he really make a difference? Or was he just another cog in a broken system? Teta Aisha's case file landed on his desk later that day, a thin stack of papers that told a story of tragedy and resilience. Arrested for a botched robbery that left a store clerk injured, she was 29, with a record that hinted at desperation more than malice. But the file also revealed a son, Jamal, missing since her incarceration 2 years prior. Social services had lost track of him, and Aisha's pleas had fallen on deaf ears. Daniel stared at her mugshot, those same eyes that had pierced him in the hallway, and felt a flicker of something unfamiliar guilt. He dismissed her as just another inmate, but now her whispered plea haunted him. Could he, a man who'd failed to save himself from his own youth, find the strength to honor her dying wish? Tata tension simmered as days turned into weeks. Daniel began digging, his nights spent poring over faded records and grainy surveillance footage, his days dodging the skepticism of his superiors. "You're wasting time on a dead-end case," barked Sergeant Malone, a grizzled veteran with a disdain for lost causes. Daniel's persistence earned him sidelong glances and whispers. Some called him obsessed, others pitied him. Yet each lead he chased, from abandoned foster homes to dimly lit street corners, revealed a thread of Aisha's past, a single mother who'd turned to crime to feed her child, a woman who'd lost everything to a system that chewed up the vulnerable. With every step, Daniel's doubt grew. He was out of his depth, a cop playing detective in a city that didn't care. The turning point came on a frigid November night, the kind where the wind howled through the concrete jungle like a living thing. Daniel tracked a lead to a rundown shelter in Harlem, where a volunteer remembered a boy matching Jamal's description. As he pushed through the creaking door, the air thick with the scent of damp wool and despair, he found him, a lanky 14-year-old with Aisha's eyes, huddled in a corner. Jamal's story spilled out in halting words abandoned by relatives, surviving on the streets, hardened by betrayal. Daniel's heart clenched. He saw his younger self in the boy's guarded stare. But before he could act, a twist shattered the fragile hope. Aisha's health had taken a sudden turn, and she was dying in the prison infirmary, her final hours slipping away. Sutter racing against time, Daniel brought Jamal to Rikers, the boy's reluctance warring with a flicker of longing. The infirmary was a stark, clinical space, the beep of machines a somber rhythm as Aisha lay frail, her once strong frame diminished. When her eyes met Jamal's, tears streamed down her face, and she gripped his hand with a strength born of love. "You're my heart," she whispered, her voice a threadbare whisper. Then, turning to Daniel, she revealed the shocking truth. The robbery hadn't been random. She'd been coerced by a corrupt cop, a man who'd threatened Jamal's life to silence her. The revelation hit Daniel like a punch. His own brotherhood was tainted, and Aisha's sacrifice had been for her son's survival. Ta-da! With Aisha's last breath, Daniel vowed to uncover the truth. The investigation that followed was a grueling battle, pitting him against a wall of silence and threats. But armed with Aisha's dying confession and Jamal's testimony, he exposed the corrupt officer, a high-ranking figure who'd preyed on the powerless. The precinct erupted in scandal, and Daniel, once underestimated, emerged as a hero, not just for justice, but for the boy he'd saved. Jamal, now under Daniel's guardianship, stood tall at the trial, his mother's legacy fueling his resilience. As the gavel fell, sentencing the corrupt cop to decades behind bars, the courtroom buzzed with a mix of awe and redemption. The story closed on a quiet evening, the city skyline glowing against the dusk as Daniel and Jamal stood on a Brooklyn rooftop. The boy, now 15, carried a photo of Aisha, her smile a beacon of the love that had saved him. Daniel placed a hand on his shoulder, his own eyes glistening with unshed tears. He'd fulfilled her wish, but more than that, he'd found a purpose, a chance to rewrite his past through the future of a boy who'd lost everything. The wind carried their silence, a testament to a bond forged in sacrifice and hope, a reminder that even in the darkest corners, light could break through. What would you have done in Daniel's shoes? Could you have found the strength to honor a stranger's last wish, or would you have turned away? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to hear your take on this incredible story of redemption. If you were moved by Aisha's courage or Daniel's journey, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more cinematic tales of heroism and justice. Hit that bell icon so you never miss a new video, and let's keep the conversation going. Together, we can explore the power of the human spirit